Hi there, everyone. My name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews. And I'm doing this out of order, but I am finishing up the era of Bon Scott on the recorded disc that is CD based on North American releases. We are talking about AC/DC's If You Want Blood. All right, now if you read through the story in here, the story is the American label wanted to release a live album to try and get AC/DC out there because with all these other arena rockers and stuff like that out there, people weren't giving AC/DC the notice that the label needed them to have. And they put together this album. And it's really interesting because I have a point of comparison with this album. There is the AC/DC Let There Be Rock live in Paris, which when I was a kid was one of the live VHSs you could rent of AC/DC from your neighborhood Blockbuster. Yeah, fun times. Okay, so, and it was always on hand. It felt like it was always there unless we rented it out, kind of thing. Now, this set list doesn't compare to that set list at all. It's actually really interesting. And considering the Live in Paris is just that, it's, Live in Paris. And it was recorded theoretically at the same time. Because all the notes say that this was recorded in 77. And the Live in Paris show also would have been done in 77 because it was the Let There Be Rock tour. But there's only a few songs that actually kind of mix between the two, and the order is completely different too. All right, so let's get into this album, huh? All right, album's up with Riff Raff. The first minute and 30 seconds is basically just teasing the audience. A great thing. AC/DC is really good about building up anticipation before they come out live. Like, they really get the audience stoked up really good just with basic little things on them. I saw them on the Ball Breaker tour. So the first minute and a half basically to tease out the audience after the cool Beavis and Butthead exclusive video was a wrecking ball that swung into a giant castle. It's really cool. Really cool. Sounds a little... obviously that's a very minor description of it, but it's really cool. You can watch it. It's the No Bowl concert. They did release a live show for it. It's the No Bowl show. So back to the song Riff Raff. After, your standard build-up, minute and a half, band comes launching out. It's fantastic. High energy, opens the setup really nicely. Riff Raff, the song itself... Never been a huge song for me, but, it works. From there, we go into Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. And the entire catalog of that, which is AC/DC, this song is kind of a little basic. It's not... It's a good album cut, but it's not a huge standout. In the era in which this would have been done with Bon Scott doing it, because it still would have been new, this would have been a really good song to have going, especially as the second song in the set list. High energy, but, you could really hear it in here, the energy and everything like that, how it's still fresh, it's still vibrant, it's new for them. Nowadays, when they throw it into a set list, I'm kind of like, well, all right, I guess. Sorry for the pause, fighting a dreadful cold, and my cat Pandora came to say hi. The only time she ever sits in my lap is when I'm working on the computer for some weird reason. If you want to see more of Pandora, then you need to hit the like button, the subscribe button. I'm going to get the subscribership up. Make sure to get more kitties in the video if, I get a higher subscribership. I know people want to see kitties on the internet, don't they, right? Pandora agrees. That's why she's coming up to say hi. I try and get my viewer count up. All right, let's get back into the album. All right. After Hell Is in a Bad Place to Be, we get into Bad Boy Boogie. Wrong song to follow up Hell Is in a Bad Place to Be. Well, they are different songs. The energy, the vibe, stuff like that, they're very much alike. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Bad Boy Boogie to start with. I actually think it's a very overrated song in the AC/DC catalog. I do like the energy in the live version and whatnot. It's really cool. And, it's kind of like this is also every live set Angus likes to do is his little striptease, right? If you're a regular AC/DC fan, you know this. And Bad Boy Boogie sounds like it's the striptease song on here. Usually it's, third song into the set when Angus starts screwing around a little bit on the guitar and starting to take it off. And this song clocks in at 7 minutes, 28 seconds. There's a lot of, screwing around on the guitar. And I'll be honest, it probably could have been cut down a little bit to save a little more space on the album. Maybe fit an extra song or two on there instead. Well, at least one extra song. Now, the other thing, too, I want to talk about with this live album is at this point in the album, I've actually questioned quite a bit on whether or not this is actually a true live album or just a live practice album. I've personally recorded songs where I've piped in a live audience into it to make it sound like it's a live track or like there's a live track in the background, stuff like that. It's not that hard to do. To get clapping on beat, that's a little bit different. Still not that hard to do. And up until this point, every song has had basically kind of like just key point audience participation in there, where it really does just sound like it's being piped in. And there's a lot of times where it sounds like they're just being recorded live off the board during like rehearsals and practices. Like, let's rehearse and practice this song here. Let's rehearse and practice this song there. So yeah, we can say we recorded at this venue on the world tour. We recorded at this venue on the world tour, but they weren't actually recorded during the live sessions themselves. So, and even that song, there's even points in here where like all the complaints, like the next song I get into, all the complaints I would make seem to kind of disappear. And the reason why I bring this up is, unfortunately, Kiss kind of destroyed live recordings in the 70s, and the idea that they're all actually just proper real live takes. Like there's some, like the Doors absolutely live, they said was cut from hundreds of performances or something like that, or hundreds of hours of recordings over multitudes of performances, stuff like that, spliced together. But it was always live during the shows. Kiss Alive, they recorded live during the shows, and then they would do a lot of overdubs later on because, the track would give out, the tape would give out, stuff like that. And yeah, stuff like that happens. But the biggest problem in here, I think, is the audience just wasn't microphoned properly. When you go to do a live performance, you really should have one kind of overhead mic over the band, over the audience, so you can get the vibe, the room. The room mic, some people call it. The ambiance mic, some people might call it. I call it an overhead mic. It's what a boom would be used for in movies and stuff like that. And the idea is you just capture everything. So you capture the whole room and the sound of the whole room. They didn't do this for these recordings, clearly. Moving on, we got the Jack. And this is the dirty version of the Jack. It's not the card game version, and I bring that up because there are actually live recordings of the card game, which I will get into in my next review. I do really dig on the Jack. Who doesn't like the Jack? It's one of those songs that's always fun live. Great sing-along song. After that, we go into Problem Child. This is high energy. It's great to hear if you are into the song. I'm not a big fan of Problem Child. Then you got a whole lot of Rosie. Oh, you cannot have a live album without a whole lot of Rosie. Ooh, yeah. I personally regret that I've never gotten to play this song live because this song just is great live, man. I guess. I guess. I guess. I want to tell you a story about a woman I know. When it comes to loving, oh, she steals the show. She ain't exactly pretty. She ain't exactly smart. 432 for 956. You can say she ain't all. All right. So once again, if you want to see more kitties, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. Feel free to leave a comment. We're going to keep going on here now. All right. We're good. Okay. So now that I've thoroughly disturbed my cat and she's ready to take off, So after a whole lot of Rosie, we get into Rock and Roll Damnation. I've never been a fan of this song. I definitely would have picked something else to go here instead. Not a song I would have used. High Voltage. High Voltage is a great song, man. I wanna get high. I wanna get high. I said high. Voltage, rock and roll. Yo. Thank you, Bond. Thank you, Malcolm. All right. Um, that's followed by Let There Be Rock. Let There Be Rock, okay. It is a good song if you were at the event live. It is wonderful if you're actually there live. There's a lot of energy to it. It's really fun. It's really enjoyable that way. I have never enjoyed the song on the album, and I don't like any recordings of it either. And the reason why is, oh my god, the song goes on too long. And not a good too long. I mean, like, For Those About to Rock is one of my absolute favorite songs of theirs. Let There Be Rock, obviously being in the same vein of time, it doesn't work for me. It's a song for when you're there live, but that's it. And then the album finishes off with the Rocker. And Rocker's not a bad tune. It's a good way to even finish off the set list, man. High energy, get out of there, leave them wanting more, call it a day. I am surprised, though, because, like I said, and I'm going to get into this in my next review as well, the Let There Be Rock Live in Paris movie. It uses some of the songs that are on here. Let's see. Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be is on here. What else have we got on here? Whole Lot of Rosie, The Rocker, Let There Be Rock. So those are all on here. Now, the Let There Be Rock Live in Paris, I would have thought it was from the Let There Be Rock tour because everything about it has always made it look that way. But it looks like at the same time, they either had already worked out Highway to Hell songs, or maybe this was actually the tour for Highway to Hell. It's hard to say. I know at one time I researched it, but what I'm trying to get at here is there are definitely songs that could have been on there that in that tour that should have been on here instead. TNT. Dirty Deeds, weirdly, I don't get this one. Dirty Deeds is a monstrous song live now. Like, to go to an AC/DC show and not hear Dirty Deeds now, boom, mind-blowing. But every live album I look at, Dirty Deeds in here, that should have been on here, man. That would have been some killer stuff, right? That would have really sold some stuff. TNT should have been on here. Like, basically, to me, this is kind of more of a sampler of Powerage and Let There Be Rock. And instead of, releasing like a US mixer of the two kind of thing, they did this. And I don't know, it's... Of everything in the Bon Scott era of recordings, this is probably the one that I'm into the least out of everything. And this is the digitally remastered version with, the cool booklet inside. I read the booklet inside. It gives details, but not all the details. Talks about the song, stuff like that. For me, if you're an AC/DC fan, yeah, you gotta have it. Realistically, the AC/DC catalog is not that big. So to be a hardcore AC/DC fan and own all the natural AC/DC stuff isn't hard to do. Oddly enough, it took me and Tracy getting together for me to put it all together because there were some albums I just was never interested in buying. This actually, believe it or not, was one of them. I was never overly huge on having to have this album. Anyways, that's it, folks. I'm done talking. Let me know what you think. That's what the comment section is before. Like I said, like, subscribe, bell, blah, blah, blah. Link to Patreon below. Peace. Love. Take care.